I'm not a bartender, but I'm gonna make a martini my way. Well, it's not really my way, but it's what I learned off of YouTube. Quick, simple, to the point, just like my videos. So if you can suffer through this for the next couple of minutes, you know, there is a point to all of this after I'm done. All right, guys, here we go. So got my container full of ice, got my martini glass full of ice, got my Hendrick's gin, because that's my favorite, out of the freezer. Basically put about a shot and a half in here. The problem when you do one shot, it doesn't really fill up the martini glass, but if you do a shot and a half, and as I've found out recently, I can only tolerate one of these. If I do too many, it goes straight to my head. So there's a shot and a half of gin. Got the old martini vermouth. Dump about a quarter of whatever the hell this is. That's the splash. I actually learned how to do this from George Martin because there's a YouTube video floating around. Hopefully I find the link and I put it in the video here. That's the first hint. So that, okay, this, rinse that in the sink later. So here's the thing. Some people, I know James Bond shaken, not stirred, but I got stir sticks, but fuck it. I'm just gonna make some noise. Nice and simple. All right. Now what I do is I take this out, and I'm not going to bother videoing it because it's nighttime. This ice, to cool the glass down, goes into the bird feeder. The bird bath, sorry. All right, so that took a little longer than expected because my wife, well, she looks after the bird feeder and so do I, but it was kind of empty and it was a hot day today. Anyhow, there's the shaken vermouth and gin combination. So that's a shot and a half of gin, I guess a quarter shot of vermouth. There we go. That should have filled the fucking glass up. Where'd the fucking rest of my booze go? Hang on. Oh, I said a shot and a quarter. I said a shot and a half, right? Whoops. So now this just now turned into how not to make a martini. Or we could do this. All right. That's about a shot and a half. Okay, let's do this over again. Half a shot of martini, quarter shot of vermouth. Keep that in there. Do this again. There's a reason why the cap was off. I'm doing the stone sober at the time being. All right, there we go. All right, done. That. Okay. Whoops. You guys think I've been drinking. I'm stone sober right now doing this shit. All right, there we go. There we go. Yeah, get all that down there. Get all that fucking... All right, once more. All right, so now what happens is the ice gets dumped into the bird feeder. So there'll be residue of the vermouth and gin in there for the birds in the morning, you know, got to keep them happy. And then I'll be back in a minute. All right, so after I've dumped the ice and the residue of the vermouth and gin in the bird feeder there, whatever's left over, dump it in here. One more item. So I like dirty gin martinis. I'm not a vodka guy, so, you know, so basically a little bit of the juice. toothpick. Let's see if I can fish these guys out. There we go. Oh, you don't have a red pepper in the middle of you. Oh well, nothing else went right in this video, so why should that? There we go. That's my dirty martini, guys. Like I said, the George Martin hint means you know what this is going to be about. It's a Beatles video. All right, see you guys in a little bit. Guys, I forgot to toast you all after I finished making this drink, which I've still got a little bit left of. Still one olive left, the one without the pepper inside. Anyhow, I'll get started with the Beatles video, but a little parched again. So, my love of the Beatles probably started around 1980. I guess it would be after, well, 81. I mean, after John Lennon was assassinated, like a week before my birthday, right? My birthday's on the 15th of December, and he was assassinated on the 8th. And Greg Lake passed away December 7th. So I kind of remember those dates very, very easily. Bill, getting back to all this, so everybody started out with the Red and Blue albums, and that would have been 1981. I borrowed the LPs from a friend. I had my old York's stereo, hit the play and record, and when you're in the 6th grade, the early Beatles stuff appeals to you more than the later Beatles stuff. That progresses usually, that actually kind of kicked in for me around the 8th grade, 7th grade, end of 7th grade, beginning of 8th grade. And then beginning of 8th grade, that kind of delved into the Who and the Stones, but anyhow, getting back to the Beatles stuff. So that's where it all started. I remember 1983, I was in the 8th grade again. My parents had a RCA VHS VCR and CKVR in Barrie, Ontario, and through our cable converter, they were playing the Yellow Submarine on us. I guess it was broadcasting it on a Sunday, so I hit play and record. Quality wasn't very good, but we didn't care. I recorded. I was the only one that had a VCR period amongst my friends. So once I got it down, and I'd pause between for the commercials and all that, invite my buddies over, and we'd check it out. My little RCA 20-inch TV with the little speaker and shit. So there was that, and Let It Be also, which was channel 57. I think back then it was still channel 79, City TV in Toronto. They broadcasted the Let It Be movie. Hey, hey. So again, my buddies would come over, we'd watch it, and again, the quality was kind of shitty. But we didn't care, we were watching Let It Be, we were watching Yellow Submarine, At that time, 1983, I don't think there was any VHS copies of either movie out at that time. I think that might have been 84, 85. Anyhow, so that progressed, and then throughout the 80s, again, once I got into the Blue album, then I had to buy the albums. And I guess 1982, 1983, I actually, a friend of my dad's, I always called him Uncle Hector, even though we weren't blood related, but he was always my uncle, rest in peace. He had the Canadian copy of the VJ records introducing the Beatles, not the $10,000 plus, whatever the hell it goes for now, 5-figure, copy. This was a cheaper, this was like a later pressing, It was, I don't think it was a knockoff. It would have been a later pressing. And then I'd also bought from his pain in the ass nephew, Joseph. We were the same age, but he was a fucking pain in the ass. Anyhow, for $10, he let me buy his mom's copy of the same album. The weird thing was, one copy, the one I got from Uncle Hector, had one track that was missing. No, sorry, the one that I bought from my friend, or his nephew, sorry, for $10, had one track that was missing on the one I got from Uncle Hector. And the jacket was in a lot better shape now. Did Mom know that he sold the album to me for $10? I don't remember. you know. Anyhow, so I had that LP. Uncle Hector had the Canadian or US version of Help with the instrumental bits, which I did rip before I got rid of the LP. The instrumental bits, actually, the sound quality is really good. The rest of it, the 87 CD just blows it out of the water. Plus, it's got more better songs on it, or fleshed out. Then I also got from him the Beatles, what we called the second album here in North America. Again, the sound quality was crap. Who knows what pressing it was. Beatles IV or Beatles 4. That again, a lot of this was the reprocessed stereo stuff that was happening at the time. And yeah, they didn't sound very good, so I don't miss getting rid of them. And they weren't worth a shit ton of money to begin with. What else did I have? Oh, my other non-blood related uncle, now he lives in Toronto. He's in his 80s now. I remember, I'm sure he still got it. He had a 1970 copy of Let It Be mono when he first came to Canada. It was, you know, he had a kick-ass system when I was a kid. You know, he had a dual 1229 turntable. He had a Grundig receiver. I think it was tubes. I don't know if it was transistor / tubes. I can't remember. I remember what it looked like, though. If I can find it online, I'll put it in the video, a picture of it. He also had a Uher reel-to-reel. I don't like VU meters on anything in my stereo, as you guys know, because when I was a little kid, you know, we'd play these reel-to-reels, and you'd see the VU meters popping and all this stuff, and you'd be all hypnotized. So, another tangent. Let's get back to the Beatles. So he has that. I never got that copy off him. Hopefully, if I go back to Canada one of these days, I'm gonna pop in and visit him and, you know, see if he'll give it to me. Just for the sake of having it. I know the sound quality is not going to compare to the Blu-ray that came out a couple of years ago. And so those were the LPs that I had. I'd gotten rid of them a long time ago because they weren't really nothing to write home about. Now you fast forward, you go through the 80s, you go through the 90s, and then my son's born in the 2000s. And I guess around 2008, he started playing the drums. And I ripped him a copy of both Help and Hard Day's Night and Yellow Submarine. And my wife and I would go to bed, and my son was like 7.5 years old at the time. And we'd go to bed, and because his bedroom was across from ours in the old house up in Smiths Falls there. And I'd hear like Help or Hard Day's Night, you know, or Yellow, whatever. And obviously it'd help him, put him to sleep, right? And I thought it was great, you know. And even with all the hippity-hoppity bullshit that he listens to nowadays that I can't really fucking stand, play Hendrix and play the Beatles, he's in on it. We're actually going to go see Santana again for the second time in, I guess it's Talking Stick Arena, I don't know, Phoenix next month. So that's going to be kind of cool. And yeah, it was kind of cool. My son got into the Beatles, and he was playing drums. He's just like, he doesn't play drums anymore, but he's just like Ringo. Ringo's a lefty playing a right-handed kit. My son's kit, when I'd set it up before his drum teacher, who was in high school, when he saw how I had it set up the Phil Collins way, right? I'm going to screw this up on the camera, I know it. The hi-hat was set up on the left side, snare in the middle, and the toms were going from, I guess that would be from right to left, and then the floor toms would be over here, right? You guys saw that. I just woke Happy up too. Let me fix that. All right, back. Time for another drink. So, you know, so he had that whole Ringo windshield wiper thing down to a science. And like Ringo, he led with his right right foot on the kick drum. That was just his natural thing, and ghost notes just came to him naturally, right? But the thing was, when his drum teacher got him going, he says, no, I got to set him up as a right-handed kit. I wasn't going to argue with the guy because, you know, he's a drummer. He knows best, right? And my son, who didn't really have any left-handed kit, right-handed kit sensibility, he just went with it, right? And so yeah, he was just like Ringo. He was a lefty, yes hand, but he played a right-handed kit. So anyhow, and he had that whole thing down. Now, the earlier Beatles stuff, he was able to kind of follow along to it. But then, here comes Sgt. Pepper. And he used to love, over and over again, Sgt. Pepper's Reprise, right? But he could never get the timing right. Never. He tried and tried and tried, and once in a while he'd get it right. But again, Ringo is one of those special drummers, man. It's like, if the amount of drummers that he's influenced over the years is just phenomenal, you know. And it just goes to show he makes it look easy, and it ain't. The dude's 84. He's still making it look easy, and it ain't. So, you know, and again, fast forward to 2013, and my wife, my son, and I went to go see Paul McCartney live. A great show when he still had his voice. Sadly, he doesn't have the voice anymore, but he can still play like a motherfucker. No argument there. It was a great show, and it was always a thrill of a lifetime for me and my son, of course. And, you know, my wife was there just for, you know, why not? Never going to happen again. And then fast forward to 2018, and I'm working in Pittsburgh, and I used my Southwest points. I flew my son up during the weekdays because Ringo was doing a show, I think it was at the Carnegie Center, or no, Mellon Center, something, the theater downtown there. We were up in the rafters, and the acoustics were horrible up there. Like, everything bounced off of this plaster ceiling and all this, and it's like a dome shape. But still, you know, my son was blown away. He's like, hey, this is Ringo, this is cool, you know, and he still got it, man. And the thing with the Ringo live show, it's all about fun. So were the McCartney show. When we saw McCartney in Ottawa, it was the same thing, you know. So there's my whole Beatles thing, and now obviously it's progressed, it's advanced. The only Beatles vinyl that I have, and that's my other thing. Here's the controversial part, and I don't care what you guys say in the comments. It's my ears, my rig. I don't give a fuck. Beatles sound like shit on vinyl, okay? Point blank. I bought the 1987 CDs. You know, I never got rid of them, right? I got rid of a lot of other CDs, but I kept those, not because they're worth money, they're not. But to me, until Giles Martin, and I know I've mentioned this in an earlier video, until Giles Martin got his hands on the tapes, any subsequent reissues after 87 were just bullshit and crap. The 2009 reissues and all that, you know, they had the mono mixed down versions and all this. And, you know, George Martin, when he did the reissues in 1987, he went with the first 4 in mono, which I was stupid enough not to buy. I did find them on Discogs on the used market, so I do have them in my collection now. But I had I still have Sgt. Pepper's, but I had it with all the cutouts and everything, and I lost the cardboard cover thing there. So, yeah, I had the original CDs when they first came out in 87. I bought them as they came out. Fast forward to all this, and it just blows your mind. I mean, the Dolby Atmos of Let It Be, the Dolby Atmos of Abbey Road. I mean, Giles Martin had a lot of fun with the mixes, and that's what it's all about. You know, I'm a multi-channel guy first, and 2-channel guy second. So my preference now to listen to these albums is in Dolby Atmos, right? And again, I've told you guys 1,000 times, when you listen to it on Atmos, it's compressed all to shit, right? But at least it gives you a taste. So it's basically making you have to go out and buy the Blu-ray boxes or the Blu-ray discs, whatever. But yeah, I mean, these Atmos remixes are just awesome. Let It Be, the DVD, or Get Back, okay, whatever. I bought it on DVD 2 years ago, or whenever it came out, when after Disney was done with it, because the Blu-ray they wanted like $100 or $90, which I think I also mentioned in a video earlier, and I got the DVD for like $30 or $20, right? There's 3 discs inside. The sound quality is not going to change, right? Big deal. It's in 9624 on all 5 channels. The fact that the sound quality is as good as it is, it's not going to make a hill of beans difference between 9624 and the compressed whatever 400 whatever it is, you know. And the other day I pulled it out because I just wanted to rewatch it after a few years, and my son sat down with me during the second half of disc 1, and you know, we sat down, watched it together for about an hour, before the part where George leaves the band, right? And then the second disc, which I'm gonna probably pop in tonight or tomorrow morning, you know, is when how they got him to come back into the band and all that, and then Billy Preston came in. So no spoiler alerts. Anybody watching this video has already seen, you know, Get Back stuff. And then Let It Be, the actual movie. I haven't seen it released on Blu-ray, but it's only available right now, I think, on Disney, which is kind of dumb. But it's kind of like Beatles Revolver. You can't buy Beatles Revolver in the Dolby Atmos. You can't buy the Blu-ray disc because there isn't one. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. They'd released Let It Be as a full-on box with all the outtakes and everything else. And I loved Let It Be, this one, because it's got the Glyn Johns remix, which is 1,000 times better than whatever fucking Phil Spector did with it. So getting back to all this stuff, as you can see, I've got Pepper playing in the background there. That's the 5.1 that Giles, that was the first 5.1 that Giles Martin remixed. And what I like about that is he centered the vocals, so they're not doing the whole left and right panning thing. And I understand when George Martin did the reissue in '87, I know there was an Audio Magazine interview where he was asked why did he keep the panning left and right, why didn't he blend everything in and keep the instrumentation separate, and his whole thing was it would have all collapsed to mono, right? Or he would have had to use that fake stereo, because they had limited amount of tracks back then, which still blows your mind though, how they did it, right? So obviously Giles Martin had the technology at his hands, so he was able to spread everything out in the 5.1 mixes of both this. And what's not shown here, because I ran out of room, is the White Album. Let's hope the White Album doesn't knock my Martini over, just in case. So White Album 2 is an excellent remix. If anyone should be a caretaker of the Beatles catalog, it's Giles Martin. You know. And obviously, Beatles love. My family and I saw it right before COVID. Excellent production, but the sound quality was shit. Like, forget about audiophile. I mean, the PA just sucked. So, yeah, I've got Beatles, and that Love remix that Giles Martin did with his dad, and the mashups, I loved it from day one. Beatles Anthology, 1995. I was living in the Four Holes in Ottawa, Ontario, well, Nepean, Ontario, and the apartment I was living in, you couldn't keep any decent stereo gear in there. It would definitely get ripped off while I was at work that day, during the day. And I was in my mid-20s back then, living on my own for the first time. So in December, when Anthology 1 came out, I'd bought both the LP version and the tape and the cassette version. The cassette version so I could listen to it in my apartment with the little ghetto blaster that my mom gave me. And then what I used to do back then was I would buy vinyl, CDs, whatever, take them home to Hamilton, record them all onto cassettes, bring them back to the apartment so I could listen to them, you know, whenever I had time. And hey, it worked. So with Anthology, the Anthology 2 came out in 96, and then later in 96, Anthology 3 came out, and both pressings were shit. And I mean, I would have kept them when I sold all my vinyl, but because it was three LPs in each set, and the sound quality was really good, but the quality control on the pressings was garbage because up in Canada we were vinylly challenged. We used to have to throughout the 90s. Only way you'd get your vinyl was U.S. imports, English imports. There was no more Canadian vinyl to my knowledge because the stores weren't fucking stocking it, and if they were stocking it, they were promo items. Van Halen Balance I got on vinyl, which was actually weirdly a couple of dollars cheaper than the CD. So I got Anthology 2 and 3. Anthology 2 on the Strawberry Fields, where it goes through the different demos and then into one of the rough final mixes, there were skips in it, right? This was not like bass skips or any of that bullshit or too much bass. No, there were legitimate skips in it. Anthology 3 for White Onion, Glass Onion. It's playing, and then when it goes into all the sound effects stuff in the middle there, it skips, right? What else? I think it was on. Yeah, Strawberry Fields had a scratch in it, and later on when I did rips with my computer many like 20 years ago, I was able to cut out all the ticks, right, manually. It was a pain in the ass, and I still have those rips. They don't sound bad. I mean, they held up, you know, even though it wasn't on as good equipment as I have now, but it was better than nothing. So that's kind of my history with the Beatles and what I have in my collection, and you know what I no longer have in my collection. And I have no desire to refill those specific pressings back into my collection here because they sounded like crap, and I don't miss them. All right, guys, I know the video was a little long. I'll try to edit out the bad bits, and thanks again for suffering through this one, and see you on the next one, guys. Like and subscribe. Cheers. Bye.